Hello my YouTube friends, I'm back with yet another video. It's now two in quick succession and I'm building a few dioramas to display some of my 3D printed items. In this video we see how I add some scenery to a river diorama that is being built to display some of the canoes and oars that I 3D print. So here we start looking at the base of the diorama, quite small, and I'm just cleaning some of the already done scenery excess out of the river bed itself, and then I'll be adding some rock texture to the river base. I have all of the little pieces of plaster that broke off when I do castings of rock faces, etc. I don't throw them away, I keep them. I have saved them up in a little chicken liver tub, which I use quite handily for containers, keeping my stuff together, as I feed my dog with chicken livers every day, since she does not like the dry dog food. And I have mixed some paint in with the white plaster bits, and now I am busy spreading that down the river bed, trying to get the effect of the water running over a rocky riverbed, but there's no water yet. That will almost be the last item added to this diorama. So I'm just spreading the rocks out and trying to make sure that the whole riverbed is covered, and just using a old credit card that has expired. They are handy pieces of scratch building material. Cut them up, glue them together, and they make quite good base material for models. And they also take paint quite well if you just give them a little sanding with some very fine sandpaper, just to give it a bit of a rough surface or texture that the paint can adhere to. So they work quite well in that instance. And as you can see in this case, little spreaders. I can't even think which card this was that I cut up, but since I have this whole selection of them, and at one stage companies used to send you a store card and then you have to open the account, but they already sent you the card. And of course I never opened the accounts. I believe in buying what you need by cash or EFT with the money in your account, and not to pay interest on accounts. So that cards also became very handy scratch building material. So thank you for all the companies that used to do that. You supplied me with a good amount of scratch building material. But I don't think that was your purpose, but that's what I purposed it for. So here we continue flattening the base out, making sure that there's no bumps in the riverbed, as you may just have a very unnatural occurrence if there's a bump in the river all of a sudden. Normally the water, through years and years of flowing, levels things out and makes it quite smooth. And there I'm just using a brush to make sure that it is evenly spread. As you can see, that edge there is not covered very well, so we'll be just moving the stuff around a little bit while it is still wet and movable. And then we just place the canoes that are in the process of being painted. I still have to decide on a color for the inside, and maybe darken the little benches inside a bit more, as I have found that many times we paint wood brown, and if we look at natural wood, it is a lot lighter than the wood that we normally paint. So I'm going for a more sandy color for my wood, but in this case it looks a little bit too light, so I may darken that still in the future. So the canoes were fitted and it looked quite good. Now the banks also need some greenery, and here I'm just putting some glue that's already pre-mixed, and I'm going to give it a spray of wet water, Modelers, of course, know what wet water is. That is just normal tap water with a drop or two of dishwashing liquid in it to break the surface tension. And a bit later you will see, as I put these down, the original drops didn't flow into the ground, and once I sprayed it with that wet water, the surface tension broke and it just flowed into that scenery very nicely. Using some Woodland Scenics medium green, if I recall correctly, that just placing in that wet glue and leaving it to dry, and I'll be adding a bit more of the earth color ground cover as well a little bit later, just to get a nice mix. And in a future video I may show how I add some static grass, just to have a few things standing up, or I may even add some static grass tufts that I have made previously and added a bit of flowers to it, because you're quite likely to find some reeds or flowers on the bank of a river, little plants that are growing there and fighting the elements and eventually flowering. So I want to try and make this as realistic as possible. And I'm not showing a profile view, but the bank that is on the upper side of the screen at the moment is about twice the height of the bank where I'm busy gluing right now. So there will be a bit of a height difference, and therefore also a difference in the vegetation, that the upper bank will, or the higher bank, will have a different vegetation that is a bit, can I say, drier and not as lush as the lower bank. So there again, I've added some glue, and this glue has already got some detergent or dishwashing liquid in it, but it's still also not flowing into the scenery, although this scenery is very, very solid. It is just plaster that has been painted. And then I will give that a spray with some wet water later as well, just to make the glue soak through everything. So here I'm continuing to add little pieces of greenery, plants that are growing, sorting it out from a little container. Instead of just taking the packet and throwing everything over there, then I may have some pieces, as is happening there, falling into the river, which is still wet, so they may just stick there, and I don't want any plants growing in the riverbed right now. So we will go ahead and either fish them out or bury them in the riverbed completely. And yeah, that explosion happening is me just giving it a slight blow to clear the pieces of foam, because that is what the scenery is made out of, that is not on the glue. If I tilt this diorama, the riverbed is going to flow. You can see in the middle there's still a drop of water sitting that has to evaporate. So the plaster rocks is not very dry yet or solidified. It's still in that process. And then just adding some more glue, and you can see there's a little drop, and then slowly it dissipates into the greenery. And the minute you give it a spray like now of wet water, it just flows very nicely. So here we are busy getting this module ready to receive some more scenery material, and I think now we'll go to the earth colored ground cover, also a medium coarseness, so then it looks like some dried out plants or grasses, and we will add that. Yeah, there you can see on both sides of the riverbanks, and then I will add some smaller growth like little bushes and shrubs to the higher bank, and then the lower bank may just have perhaps a tree, if I can get myself to go and sit and make trees. I'll probably make a willow tree with its branches hanging down quite low into the river. And then I can also still at some stage find some figures that are rowing that can sit in the canoes. And as the scenery dries and everything is ready, I can add the canoes and then add the water. And for the water, I am using some Mod Podge, which is a different method than I normally use. I've started using this method, I can say, within the last year previously, and that was an extremely time-consuming method. I would use layer upon layer upon layer of marine varnish, and that would take up to a few months to do a scene, as the layers were quite thick and they had to dry thoroughly before adding the next thick layer. But that had the advantage that you could actually embed items in the varnish. So in my one layout I had when I was still in Uitenhage, I actually had fish in the harbour. So when you looked down into the harbour water, you could see a school of fish with a shark chasing them. But as I say, that took about 3 months to do. So thank you for watching, and give this video a like if you have enjoyed it.